Should do.
And we're live.
Oh, hello.
Are we live? Hello,
We
everyone.
are.
Cinema Savvy Movie Podcast. Happy 1 year anniversary to all of us, I guess. Wow, I can't believe it's already been a year. I remember our first review. It was Avengers: Age of Ultron, and wow, how the channel has changed over time. We've moved to live action. That's a big change for us. And we've brought other people on. I mean, when we started, it was just me and you, George. We'll go into the history a bit later, and then Tate, you've joined the channel, and it's like completely changed. I'm loving where it's at. So, round of applause, everyone.
Yeah.
We've all learned it. So yeah, we just decided to do a Q&A for this one. I guess we'll jump into the questions in a minute. We've got them all written down. Thank you to everyone, by the way, that sent us in questions. We've got quite a lot to discuss today. But yeah, the Q&A thing, we just thought, what can we do that celebrates a year? Do we do a special kind of review or anything like that? But we're just going to keep it casual, keep it simple, do a simple Q&A. But yeah, so I guess we'll kick off, like, your guys' thoughts, just like with the channel. Like, George, you can go into like the history of it and stuff, because I think I got into contact with you on the Schmoes No page, didn't I, on the Facebook page, when I sort of pitched the idea to you.
And I think the main draw was, it sounds really weird. It wasn't, it was doing a podcast, okay, that's kind of cool, I've never done something like that. And then it was like, I'm from Warwickshire. I was like, oh shit, he is up the road from me. So that was that. I think when I saw the word Warwickshire, I was like, okay, that's the draw. Then I read your status, so essentially I could have been locationist and not read it and this wouldn't cease to exist.
Yeah, I was surprised, honestly, to get someone off that page, because like I was surprised that you were that close as well. I mean, I thought it was a US fan base.
Isn't it? It's American, so I was shell-shocked at seeing, people, let alone localish ones. I mean, what? You just need an Ian, so you're about 25 minutes in the car. It's not close, but compared to a sort of global internet thing.
Oh yeah.
But no, we saw each other at the Hans Zimmer concert, and we'll see each other at Celebration.
Yeah. I saw you in HMV buying a bunch of stuff.
John Wick. He wants to know why I didn't pick John Wick for Timestamp 0, but that film has changed my life. I just forgot about it.
Yeah, but I mean, I remember when we started off the videos and everything like that, and well, actually, first off, we were a bit unsure whether today was actually the 1 year anniversary. I mean, we all kind of had different dates. Like, you had, what was it, that yesterday was the 1 year anniversary?
Loaded it a year ago yesterday, and today, a year ago, we loaded Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on with the dates. According to my YouTube, it says that today's the 1 year anniversary, but we actually recorded it the 24th, didn't we?
Like 24th or 6th or something of X-Men?
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's because in the UK you get Avengers a lot earlier than the Americans do, which is cool. But I mean, if I wouldn't listen to a review again because it was a mess. There was no structure. There was nothing. But I was in brainwashed hype of that film, and everyone knows how much my opinion's changed since.
You saw that film about, what was it, 5 times? 4 or 5 times? You loved it.
3 times, because I remember I got early screening tickets for free, but then as well as that, I'd already booked a midnight in an opening weekend, so I was caught up in the hype so badly. And like, I like it. I think it's an alright film, but not of the levels of love I had a year ago for it.
No, I mean, if you said that you've gone to see Civil War 5 times, I could probably forgive you for that. But Age of Ultron wasn't that great. And I remember our first few videos as well. I haven't actually gone back and rewatched them, but we used to do that whole like 45-minute news segment at the start, and it was cool talking about the movie news and things like that. Now we kind of just talk about the big ones that come out. But man, back then you had to sit through like 45 to 50 minutes of news, and then you actually got into the review. So we've kind of changed the structure and everything like that. And then Tate, boom.
Yes.
To you, we wanted to branch out, we wanted to bring on more hosts, and it was actually your sister that got in contact and said,
It wasn't me. So basically, my sister was going through Star Now, kind of like looking up some auditions and stuff like that, because I actually said, she was looking for a job at the time. I was like, oh yeah, go on Star Now. I've heard it's an okay like auditions website and stuff like that. She went on there and she was like, oh, I found one for you. It's like YouTube. I'm like, oh, okay. At the time, I was doing 1 video a year on my own channel. And I was thinking, do I really want to... I mean, it's to do with films, I kind of like that. And at the time on my own channel, I was doing very, very, very short reviews. I was doing like 5-minute long reviews for like the entire films and stuff like that. So my sister kind of prompted me into it. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll get in contact with the dude. And then kind of you also made me watch Martian, which I was not going to go watch.
It was a very good film, right?
It was a very good film. Yeah, it was a good film. But yeah, then as soon as I came into the channel, I kind of got more used to podcasting and stuff like that, and now I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you fit right in with the group. I think we all have a laugh. I'm not going to speak for everyone. I think we do, right? We do.
Yes, of course we do, Chris.
I was when I was speaking to your sister, I was like, okay, does this guy have anything on the internet? Anything I can base? I'm just like, oh, he's got his own YouTube channel, and I think the two reviews I watched of yours were Jurassic World and Frozen, and I remember Jurassic World one, and I was like, oh my god, someone agrees with me.
Jurassic World. I absolutely
they were
hated
short reviews. They were short reviews, but I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. He can condense the thoughts and channel the hatred and all that good stuff. Oh, we could have a cameo. We could have a cameo. No.
I believe that's the fact that my window's open and the door creaking.
Oh, okay.
A little bit scary, but we'll continue.
I thought we were gonna have like the mother's cameo again.
No phone calls this week either. And no iPads either. As of 6 hours ago, the Mac has returned home. Thank God.
Beautiful.
It's really
Glorious return.
I know. I made someone could say it was nasty and unpolitically correct comment about starving people, but I don't care. Yeah, but no, it is good to be back. I can see a screen. I have a mouse. I have a keyboard. I don't have to touch everything. But yeah. And as you can now see, the room has been upgraded, and there is. No, yeah, there's the Nolan shrine. There.
Yeah.
Star Wars shrine.
I'm sorry, is that the Dark Knight trilogy? Let's talk about one of the best films in that franchise.
No. Wait to see the remainder of the vote.
If that wins the vote in George's...
Chris.
Oh!
Oh. It's not a trilogy. It's a 2-film series.
No, it's not actually. I've got it on vinyl as well, Chris. Hold on. There you go. There's another one.
I'm just having a look at the straw poll to see what's winning at the moment, and at the moment it is 7 votes to Rush, 3 votes to Dead Man's Chest, and 4 votes to The Dark Knight Rises. So everyone at home, vote for The Dark Knight Rises in that straw poll so we can watch Chris suffer for like 2 hours.
No.
Do I have to talk about why I picked it, or do we do that on the day? Because they're very... I mean, Tate, you kind of asked why all these films. Whether or not I say that for now or on the day, it's...
Save it for the day. I think we should move on to questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to sort of bookend that. Timestamp 0, it's a commentary video where we all sit down, watch the same movie. You can vote on that, go onto our Twitter and Facebook page. You'll see the voting thing there. Really easy. Simple click, and your vote will go in. Please get your votes in, because we've actually had quite a few so far, and it would be nice to get some more, but I'm liking that Rush is sort of tipping the scale a bit in a minute. But yes, it's a Q&A session. Let's get into the questions. So who's manning the questions? Because I don't have them up. I'm so prepared for this.
Right,
George,
so
ask the questions.
read the question. We've got several from the same person, a few individual ones. I might add on one from myself, but I'm going to start with the ones that have been sent. So, Phil, it feels really weird creating this. It's kind of like a panel to yourself, but I'm just going to go through it. We'll just do a round table where we each give it. So, Phil number 06 says, what are your favourite movie villains of all time? We actually have a video recorded for this.
Funny story
Yes.
about
I think we should tell the story about the video, because I have a feeling that video is never going to see the light of day.
Oh, no, I've got it. When the Mac broke, I made sure I backed up the video to edit. But we saw, I think it might have been him that said it to us, but we must have recorded this in what? February, early March? So,
March, I think it was, yeah.
This is from a Film Buff, right? Film Buff 06, is it?
So we each did our top 10 villains. It was a hard pick. I'm not going to say who they're now, because we'll save it for Suicide Squad Reliable, sorry. You guys can say it if you want. But recording it, we kind of pretended that it was August, so we pretended that we'd already seen Batman v Superman, that we all loved Doomsday. Apocalypse and his evolution of voices, or I might have. And there's bound to be a few more, but I'm not going to answer that until August.
I'm gonna happily answer mine, because then people can see the rest of the list later on. But mine was Kaiser Soze from The Usual Suspects, just because the performance by Kevin Spacey in that character, to kind of like it was just mesmerizing, like all the way through the entire film. and it's one of those films where I remember it for the villain, not for the film itself. And when you got a good enough villain for that, that's kind of who you got to pick.
Kevin Spacey, well, even just still, he's fantastic. But in the 90s, I mean, you had American Beauty, you had Seven, you had Usual Suspects. I mean, he was great in that. I guess I can give mine. We'll save the rest for the list because I think we should still bring that out, although it kind of was a bit awkward when
we'll probably re-record it because the original.
We were having ourselves doing it with because it's a superhero film, we wanted to bring it out alongside Suicide Squad. We were referring to other superhero films that aren't currently out yet, so we were just bursting out laughing ourselves. But mine, unsurprisingly, is Darth Vader. I mean, if you bring up any kind of list of iconic film villains, he is probably number one on the list. Just the look, the voice, everything just worked for that character, and I like that. The story, even if you just look at the original trilogy on its own, the journey that his character takes to his redemption in the final movie. Spoiler alert for Return of the Jedi.
Don't worry, I just spoiled The Usual Suspects for everyone, so you can.
So yeah, I guess Vader's my number one. George, you can save yours if you want, because I think we should still bring that video out. But
it was Vader, but I think I added Palpatine in there.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
But I mean, they're standard ones. But we've all got very different villains. Some very funny, some wacky. But it was a fun list, but it was awkward but hilarious. And there are some, as usual, very controversial ones. I just realised there were so many villains. I've left out some of mine. But again,
we probably had some since, right? I bet. Maybe.
I've been rewatching a film series recently. I spoke to Chris about which film series, but this green bloke who I would probably love to have put in it. I'm not going to go into details, but if you press timestamp 0, you can work out who he is straight away. But no, it was a fun video. It was awkward though, but yeah, you guys will find out a lot more on that. I think it was about an hour as well. So when that Suicide Squad, that'll be one worth watching, I think. Should we move on to the next one?
This stuff from Filmbuff. Filmbuff gave us quite a lot of questions, right?
Yeah, he's given us 3, so we're just going to go through them all. Favourite guilty pleasure movies?
Yes.
Chris, you first because you're buzzing for this.
It's very difficult to pick one, but guilty pleasures are kind of my thing. Since we've started this channel, I've kind of strayed into good movies, ones that come out regularly or even older ones. But I always do find myself putting in guilty pleasure movies. For me, we'll keep it topical. Power Rangers the movie from the 90s.
Wow.
With the new image that came out of the Power Rangers, my love of this movie kind of came back to the forefront. This is the one with Ivan Ooze as the villain. It's a very, very enjoyably dumb movie, and I love it. And it ends on a Van Halen song, and it's great. I love it. Another one that this is a movie that everyone hates apart from me. Every time it's on the TV, I always put it on. Wild Wild West with Will Smith. I don't know what that movie is. I think just growing up watching it, it's the one with the huge mechanical spider. Kenneth Branagh in that movie is hilarious. I love the guy. Really, really fun film. And the first couple of Scary Movie films I kind of enjoy. I love dumb comedy films, so I love Nutty Professor, Nutty Professor 2, Norbit's another one. So all stuff like that, I love it. I can't help it. I know they're bad movies, but I enjoy watching them, so that's why they're guilty pleasure. Oh, and Batman and Robin as well. That's probably chief amongst them.
Wow! You like Batman and Robin?
Batman is my favourite character in fiction, and I know it's a complete slap in the face with the character, but that film is genius. I love it. I adore that movie to death. I could watch it any day of the week. Arnold Schwarzenegger always gets a free pass, and if you kind of watch it as just throwback to the classic 60s Batman, it's a very watchable and very enjoyable movie.
I like 60s Batman, not Batman and Robin. Go for yours.
I've got a couple, so I'm probably just going to reel them off. First of all, don't mess with the Zohan.
Oh God!
I know.
Sandler already. Oh God.
Brooklyn from last year, brilliant movie.
Is that a good?
I wouldn't say guilty pleasure or not. Like, I like it. I know some people who have watched it and don't like it. Much like 500 Days of Summer, which I also watch all the time.
These are good movies.
I know these are good movies, but The Holiday.
Oh, okay.
Bit of a sappy one.
That's Jack Black, Cameron Diaz, right?
Yeah, that is, yeah. That's really, really entertaining film. I really do enjoy that. And all of the, what's it called? It's gone from my head. Come back to me in a minute, I'll remember it.
Right, I'll go for mine. So with me, I've got hundreds of guilty movie pleasures probably, but I'm quite honest in what films I love. So I'm not guilty about saying that I love Transformers films because they're terrible. But to me, there's nothing guilty about them. I don't think I should be that I like them. So it's hard to come up with, kind of like, would the prequels count? No, because everyone knows that I love them films. I mean, they are what they are, but they're entertaining and they're my childhood. But favourite guilty movie pleasures, I've kind of got to think of ones that everyone hates, which would be essentially any Michael Bay film past the year 2004. But I don't know, they're hard because I'm always very honest in what I like and what I despise. And I'm easily pleased. I just like watching films to be entertained for a bit. Half the time I just want to hope that the money's been worth it or something like that. So I wouldn't necessarily say I've got many guilty movie pleasures. Maybe Pirates of the Caribbean series could count. That's kind of gone downhill. I know everyone's got different opinions on them, but I've seen them recently, and 3 of them recently.
3 guesses at which 3 you watched.
1, 2, and 4.
Oh.
Oh
no, I forgot. You hate At World's End. You despise that movie.
By the way, my movies were Ghost Riders, both of them.
See, I've seen the first one. Actually, you know what? That could probably count.
I quite enjoy Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider and Orbit, right? This is actually really ironic. You both said one of them. When I was in year 6, it was my birthday in July, and I remember being bought 2 DVDs. One was Ghost Rider, one was Norbit. They'd just come out. Then I went on a cruise a few weeks later as a holiday, and they were both on the cruise TV.
And we have the introduction of my mum for the second podcast in a row. Yeah, live stream. Yeah.
There we go.
Yes, we had to get one in there. We had to.
Like it. Just get all the mums on. Get them on else. But no, like Ghost Rider and Orbit are kind of like famous for me in the sense that it's really bizarre that I saw them both and they'll always be neck and neck for me. So you've got them, it's scary. But yeah, I'd say that's my guilty movie pleasure. It's not overtated anymore, but I don't.
I've thought of a few more for me. And it kind of reminded me when you started bringing up superhero movies with Ghost Rider. This is, and I think we've actually got a question later on. So have we got a question of one film that we love but everyone else hates? Because I might save it for that.
Yeah, there is a film in there. Yeah. There is a question.
Okay, I'll save that one. But other guilty pleasure ones for me. If people have watched any of my reactions, they know that I love the 80s, the music, fashion, film, everything from the 80s. So I would be loath if I didn't bring up the classic 80s action movies. Anything with Stallone or Schwarzenegger. So I love me some Commando, some Cobra, some Rocky IV. Who doesn't like Rocky IV? Tate, you don't like Rocky IV. You don't like the Rocky movies.
I'm not a fan of any of the Rocky movies, but Rocky IV has one of the best montages of all time.
Oh, it so totally does. And another Stallone one as well is called Over the Top, where it's like a father-son movie, and he's a truck driver, and he goes into the world arm wrestling contest, and there's montages, and there's emotional father-son speeches with Stallone. It's fantastic. And Kenny Loggins does the soundtrack as well, so...
fair enough.
I had to throw that out there. Most 80s movies are guilty pleasure movies, really. So I'm just looking at myself now. I've got an 80s section. Yeah, practically all of them. Top Gun, maybe. But yeah, so I know I had a lot for that one. We'll move on to the next question.
I do have one guilty pleasure, actually.
Oh, okay, go on.
Everyone knows that I love wrestling. I'm actually wearing a wrestling top right now. Shane McMahon, if anyone's heard of him, knows of him. Anyway, so when The Rock left, he signed some really bad Disney contracts, and he was in a lot of these films.
The Tooth Fairy. Are we going with the Tooth Fairy here?
No, it's not. It's a better one. It's called Game Plan, and this was the introduction of me getting my family to find out who The Rock is. So we've got 2 pet bulldogs, and that's like our family's breed. Like, we love them. And my mum bought this film with The Rock in because there was a bulldog on the front cover, literally. Do you know who Dwayne The Rock Johnson was? So I was kind of devastated because he was my childhood hero. And I remember watching it. I was like, I don't know if I was cringe, but I loved it. And it was on them like everyone takes the piss out of this Disney deal like Tooth Fairy, okay, it's crap, but the Rock in this game plan film is actually fun, and it's far-fetched and ridiculous. But the fact there's just a bulldog in the Rock was glorious, and anything the Rock in is incredible. I will watch anything he is in. I'm excited for the Baywatch reboot. I'm excited for this Disney animated film he's doing. I'm excited for Jumanji only because he's been cast in it. But yeah, I don't know if that counts as guilty or not, but the Rock is God. When I meet him, there will be pictures all over Facebook, the channel. I will prove everyone right. I tweeted him on his birthday saying, "Happy birthday, I'm going to meet you," and then I'll give him that victory picture when it comes. But yeah, that's kind of it for me. Do you want me to move on to the next question?
Let's go on the next question, yeah.
I could just spend all
In
day on
fact,
this.
I've got one just now from Tim DeHeer, which he's added in. He said, maybe a little idea, trailers of video games or a video games-based channel around the Cinema Savvy movement.
Wait, say that again. Trailers.
So like a video games-based Cinema Savvy.
Oh, okay.
That'd be cool.
I would be game for that. However, it would be like, how quickly could I get an Uncharted 4 review done? Oh, I need to binge it first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do it though.
And,
No,
we have to watch stuff as well.
I think the difficulty between that and what we usually do is I usually stick to only a couple of games.
Same.
And if I did branch out and start doing other games, it would take up literally all of my time.
Yeah.
And with films, you can watch them with like maybe max 3 hours, and then with what's it called? With video games, they can be like 40 hours long.
Yeah.
Finished Fallout 4 yet. Last game I bought was at Christmas, so it's hard with games. Like I remember Arkham Knight, we did a review, didn't we? Not on the game, but we did a review in the day, and it was the day Arkham Knight came out. I'd been playing it since midnight. I think it was like 8 o'clock at night. Got the review done as quick as we could. I said goodbye, Chris. This was like 9:30, and I was still playing it at 2 a.m. and I finished it. But games it's interesting, but it's so hard to do.
Yeah.
You talk about films to do with games, because obviously they're all awful apparently. No, it's something. But with games, it's just such a different climate. You'd have to branch out, get more people, if you know what I mean.
And to be honest, I literally just personally for me, I just stick to TF2 and Rocket League. So.
Yeah, I basically just play WWE.
Although Battlefield 1 looks good.
Yeah, it's about time I had a World War game on next gen.
I'm going to be buying that. I'm going to be playing a whole load of that.
Unfortunately, I've had to buy Infinite Warfare because I have to have COD 4 remasters, but I've already decided to trade it in on the day. But anyway, that's a chat for a different time.
Yeah, what we could, just going back to the video game thing, like, for me personally, I don't game at all now, and I used to game all the time. I had a PS3, I was a Sony fanboy. PS3, Yellow Light of Death, I had the original chunky 60GB one, pimped out the hard drive in it, but that sadly broke, so I'm without a PS3 console. Gone back to my PS2 one, and it looks like that's sadly on the way out now as well, so I'm slowly regressing back to the good old days of PS1. But what we could do is, like, this isn't set in stone or anything, but we were talking about branching out the channel to different sectors, so we could have a couple of hosts who just solely watch TV shows, who could review all those, and maybe if eventually we got some other people on there that were all into games and played all the new ones, we could do that. That's probably a good few years down the line, but...
Funnily enough, Tim has also just messaged me again saying... just special guest Tim for the trailers, just game trailers.
Around E3, to be fair, I'm guessing they'll drop the Assassin's Creed movie reviews. Well, not movie review, movie trailer too.
Movie trailer, yeah.
Definitely around E3, we could do something.
Maybe.
I always watch E3. I always watch that, so we could do something on that.
Absolutely. When they announced the PS4 at E3, it was incredible. And then I got Twitter blocked between too much. But yeah, do you want me to move on?
Yeah, let's go on.
Right, it's the last question from... No, 2 more questions from Film Buff.
Okay.
Favourite movies of all time?
Favourite or least favourite?
I'd say go for it, because you haven't been first yet.
My favourite movie of all time, it's split between 2 films. Personally, actually, I'm going to say 3 films here. We're going to go with my favourite of all time, my favourite at the moment, and then my favourite from kind of way back. So my favorite of all time is Gattaca, which is the sci-fi film about genetic engineering and chasing your dreams, which Chris didn't like for some strange reason. I don't know why.
Not that I didn't like it, it's just that I think because you had hyped it up so much before watching it, I was like, oh god, I have to see this movie. And then I watched it, I was like, it was alright. I understand the themes they're going for, but I didn't really emotionally connect to anything.
And we also had, for one of my other favourites, Whiplash, which came out 2014. That film is just phenomenal. Like, has me on edge the entire time and is brilliant. My third film, my old-timey film, because I do love watching old movies, 12 Angry Men. You can never beat 12 Angry Men. That is a brilliant film and a brilliant character study, because you've got 12 different characters there you can kind of go through. You learn different characters, the characteristics, the traits, everything about them, and it's brilliant to go through.
We have just discovered that the question was for least favourite movie, but I could just say for me and you, George, we actually did a list of our top 10. Was it? Yeah, we did 10 each, didn't we?
Yeah.
Top 10 favourite films. So if you go onto our Letterboxd page, that will be in the description below. You can check out our favourite lists on there. Least favourite for me, it's a really difficult list actually. This is probably one of the most difficult lists I've ever had to think about. Purely from how you rank something as being a worst movie, like is it something that's the most disappointing, or is it
one for disappointing and one for the worst?
Just poorly made. See, films that are poorly made are kind of endearing most of the time. I can only think of disappointing ones right now, so I'm just going to rattle those off. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull would probably be way up there. The feeling and the emotional, I was emotionally shattered coming out of that movie. I remember vividly, it was the summer, was it the June or the May of 2008? I got in, I've got my box set up there, it says The Complete Indiana Jones Adventures, and it's just the trilogy with a bonus fourth disc. I got that, I held it in my arms, and like a sad bastard listened to the John Williams Indiana Jones theme, and I was like catatonic, just like slowly rocking backwards. And then South Park did that. It was kind of therapy even for me, like it is for the characters. And that South Park did that fantastic episode. I think it was called The China Problem, which was about dealing with Indiana Jones and what went down in that film. So that would probably be up there for me. I can't say it's the Star Wars prequels because, like George, I grew up with them. Phantom Menace was the first one I ever watched, so a part of me always kind of has an appreciation.
When we went through the Star Wars prequels,
you all kind of loved them, I thought.
I was okay with them. I quite enjoyed them. I grew up with them and I was cool with them.
Now I'm like this, going back, I realise they're bad films. They're poorly made films, but there are elements of them that I appreciate, and just sort of growing up with them, they are kind of part of me even still. Other bad movies, I know it's a controversial one, so I won't harp on it, but Dark Knight Rises just completely let the drag shoot on me for the character of Batman and Nolan films for a long while. I'm still kind of recovering from it. Like Interstellar was okay, but it hasn't quite hit the heights of Inception. I watched that last weekend, and my god, that film is incredible even still. Love that film to death. So that movie, I'm really... And then other really piss-poor ones were just like... Transformers 3, Dark of the Moon was a miserable experience for me at the cinema. I almost got kicked out of that screening because I was just complaining so much and just like shouting at the screen.
On that note, can I butt in there, because one of my ones I was going to pick was going to be Transformers 2. I didn't watch any of the other Transformers films. I watched Transformers 1, then went to Transformers 2. On my channel, I rated Transformers 2 worse than Twilight. Worse than any of the Twilight films.
See, I'm kind of embarrassed to say that this was a different time for me. I loved Michael Bay's first Transformers film, and I think even still, as a very, very dumb popcorn shoveling action movie of a Transformers film, it's kind of okay. It's tolerable to watch. 2, I was fresh off the hype of the first one. I may have saw that movie 4 times, okay? I went to the cinema...
Oh! Here comes through the confessions.
And that's because, and I still stand by this, there are some parts in that movie that are what I want from a Transformers movie. The opening in Shanghai, I think it is, where Optimus Prime is dropped from the aeroplane and he free falls onto the highway, transforms, and then jumps onto that big wheelie thing, is incredible. The soundtrack's amazing to Revenge of the Fallen. And that forest battle, I'm sorry, but that is one of the coolest moments I've ever seen in like a Transformers film or like robot film. I love that part.
Bored.
So those two scenes, which add up to about 5, maybe 10 minutes of a 3-hour movie. I know that doesn't excuse the movie, but there are parts of that movie I like. Just saying.
I'm gonna hit up here and like I'm gonna say one film which truly stuck with me after I watched it, and I did watch through it. I don't know how, but I did. But Plan 9 from Outer Space. Dear Lord, that film was worse than The Room. With The Room, you can laugh at some things.
Yeah.
With Plan 9, you can't. Because everything is just terrible. Really bad. It's a must-watch for anyone to see.
Right. Worst films. The worst film I think I've ever seen, in terms of everything, is Movie 43.
I thought you were going to pick that.
So bad. Like, bad films you love, but then you get whatever the hell that wanted to be. I'm going to put a shot on Twilight for being on this list as well. Unfortunately, I've seen 3 of them, so I can actually voice my opinion on them very strongly. My sister was obsessed with them. She won't admit that. She was Team Jacob. She met loads of the cast. Yeah, so unfortunately, I had the horror of seeing 3 of these.
Don't worry, dude. I feel you. I saw all 5.
But then she saw the 5th one once at the cinema. Said she'd never watch it again. Didn't buy the DVD because apparently they screwed the book readers over. But I said to her that I couldn't give a damn anyway. But they're the 2 sort of one franchise, one film that I would despise. Disappointed-wise, I'm disappointed by a lot of films, so I wouldn't really go into it. I'm trying to think of a disappointing film that's kind of killed me. Godzilla 2014 is a shout. However, there's a lot of stuff I like about it. I just was severely disappointed by it. That's kind of what I've got to say. I try not to hate on films. I mean, Chris loves a good hate. We all know this.
Hold
on. Disappointing film. Whoa, disappointing film. I haven't even mentioned Skyfall yet, which I absolutely hated with a passion.
I didn't like Skyfall. I didn't like that. But I actually kind of tolerated Spectre, but a lot of people don't.
No.
I honestly didn't mind it. I really don't.
I don't know how people can like Skyfall and hate on Spectre when both of the films are just as bad as each other.
I think they're both very good Bond films.
Are you sure, George?
I'm trying. There's just another couple of films that just came to mind that were just like really shitty experiences for me at the cinema. Clash of the Titans with Sam Worthington.
Oh yeah.
Not gonna lie, I went to see that movie purely based on seeing the Kraken in the trailer, because there are some films where the effects genuinely wow me, and I just had to see it for that, and it was terrible. I know what you're going to say, George, about the sequel, but I'm talking about the first one. G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra, was abysmal in every way. I haven't seen the second one purely for that reason, but I'm sure it's pretty good. But yeah, I think that's it for just bad movies for me. I've probably seen a lot more, but they're the ones that just sort of stick out in my mind. Oh, Disaster movie as well. All those kind of other movie films were shit.
You love Scary Movie.
Isn't there a linked question to that, to your least favourite film? Isn't there a question about walking out of cinemas?
Yes, there is. Right, we'll go to it.
I have never walked out. I have never ever walked out.
Neither have I, but I got close quite recently.
This is from Callum Pound. Have you ever seen a film so bad you walked out in the middle of it? If so, which? I've never walked out of a film. I almost have. I've turned many off on DVD and Blu-ray, whether or not I'm tired or can't be asked or seen them before. But I've never walked out of a cinema. I just rather not waste my money.
What's the closest you've ever got to walking out of a cinema?
What, me?
Yeah.
Alvin and the Chipmunks 2. Because it was 2 of my mates' birthdays on the 15th and 18th of December. And I think it was Saturday the 19th or something. There's 4 of us and like, oh, Avatar. Everyone's talking about Avatar. Let's go watch Avatar. So I went to the cinema to watch Avatar. Turns out 2 of them had seen it the night before. So he goes, oh no, we're not watching that. So we went to the desk, goes, what are the films on? So the only other film one's Alvin and Chipmunks 2.
But Sherlock Holmes was on at the time, the Robert Downey Jr. one, and that wasn't that bad, the first one at least.
That was Boxing Day that came out, because I remember seeing it. That was really good, I really enjoyed that. But this was just before. But no, I almost walked out, I just gave them this glance, and that glance was, I'm never going to go to the cinema with you guys again, and never did.
Fair enough.
But no,
Yeah,
I mean,
Are you going, Chris?
I was just going to say, I've never walked out of a film in my life. Coming close was probably maybe Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but that was more, as you know, the final shot. This is spoiler alert, by the way, for anyone that hasn't seen Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It ends with Marion and Indy's wedding, and it's the scene where Shia LaBeouf picks up the hat, goes to put it on, and then the credits just start rolling in the church. I was up, standing out of my chair, pacing, well, storming out of the cinema before the credits even come up. So it was the final shot of the movie, so I did see the film. And I kind of did that with Dark Knight Rises as well. I saw the movie. It was the first screening on the opening day, but again, it was the scene. The final shot is Joseph Gordon-Levitt going up in the lift, cuts to black, and then the title comes up. I was up, standing out my seat, pacing out the cinema before Dark Knight Rises even came up on screen.
Max, we got a standing ovation for that film.
Oh man, I
I
tortured.
never experienced it. So yeah, I stood up and cheered and clapped. That's the only time I've ever done it at a cinema.
I've never walked out, but quite recently, and this will shock you guys, I got really, really close to, and in fact, I stood up, I went to the toilet, and I thought, should I just bail? And I went back into the cinema regrettably. And that was High Rise.
Oh, really?
Well,
I haven't seen it. Don't spoil
no.
it. I know there's some pretty bat crazy shit that happens in it though.
I walked into that film thinking, this is going to be amazing, it's probably going to make my top 5 films of the year. It wasn't disappointing, it was mind-boggling. And I know this is going to perfectly explain this film, but you know how some directors go, I'm going to make this film as artistic as possible, and I'm going to be one of those people who just didn't get the film?
Yeah.
No. This film is very douchey in the fact that it is terrible, and it tries to mask it by making, oh, but it's high-tech sci-fi, yo. And you're just like, no it isn't, you silly person. It's so bad. And I was just sat there in my seat, and they try and make it kind of more appealing by adding in, like, some drama which you're not even caring about. They try and make it a little bit confusing, try and make it a bit too much like Inception, but then they throw in, like, weird sex orgy scenes and stuff like that, which just do not fit in.
Oh my God.
There's
Kind of
a lot of swearing in the film. There's a lot of violence in the film. It's like watching A Clockwork Orange if A Clockwork Orange was directed by a person who had way bigger budget and spent no time writing a script.
I haven't seen it, but I know that the book is one of them so-called unfilmable books, so it might be the translation of pages to screen.
Actually, I really want to watch this movie now, based on your description, Tate.
An unfilmable book is Cloud Atlas, which I read through before watching the film, and the film adaptation was godlike, and I adore Cloud Atlas. I think that a lot of people don't get that film, or maybe I'm fitting into that category, but seriously, that film was well put together. This film, no, it was so bad. It was so bad. I can't understand how it's somehow getting 4 stars from Empire, Mark Commode's loving it, and all of these different people are writing, oh, it's one of the best films in years. No, it isn't. It's trash. It is complete and utter trash. I just didn't get it, maybe. Maybe I just didn't get it.
I know that it's Ben Wheatley film, and he's
Sorry, just for notes, I've been holding that in ever since I got out of the cinema, because you guys were meant to go see the film. Sorry, Chris and George were meant to go see the film, and I didn't want to tell them about it until they came out the cinema, just so I could have a smile on my face whilst doing the podcast with them when reviewing the film. But
yeah, my
I just
wasn't playing it. My cinema didn't play that film at all, so I couldn't get to it.
I'll move on to the next question, or we could do a higher review on the Blu-ray. The last one from Film Buffet 6, this would be the quickest answer, the easiest answer. what made you fall in love with movies in the first place? My answer's two words for Star Wars. Maybe then Dead Man's Chest, maybe then That Night. But Star Wars, I knew what Star Wars was before I knew what a film was, so that's my answer.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I kind of grew up in front of the TV, so I was watching cartoons, things like that. I had movies. I was watching stuff that was way higher certificate than I should have been watching. My next door had a bunch of horror movies. I used to go over there, so I had some horror movies. I had my superhero ones at home. I just watched a whole bunch of stuff, and then I've kind of just loved movie since I can remember. There's no sort of defining moment where I went, that's why I love movies, but Star Wars was a huge part of my childhood growing up, so maybe it was that, or maybe it was an influence, but I've just sort of always been surrounded by them, all different types of films, and I just love them.
For me, slightly different. Once again, I was brought up on cartoons and stuff like that. I was watching TV all the time, and it started off by watching a couple of the old Bond films, and I did eventually go on to collect all of them in like the special edition that they brought out. But I started watching the Bond films. I was like, yeah, they're quite good. I then started watching some cartoon films, which were just on the TV, like the Iron Giant, Brave Little Toaster, that kind of era of films. And then really what got me into it was I entered into a newspaper competition to go see, what's it called, Prisoner of Azkaban in IMAX, opening night of release. So it was going to be like a midnight release type thing. And I won the competition. I went to go see it, and that film blew my mind. Being one of the first people to see it in the country was amazing, first off, and kind of having that IMAX experience, and that completely got me into films, and then I basically went and bought all of the films and started watching all of them.
I do like Prisoner of Azkaban, big Harry Potter fan. Right, that's Film Buff 06's questions done.
Thank you for the questions, Film Buff.
Thank you.
Cheers, man.
We've now got two from Elizabeth. What's a movie you haven't seen that you know everyone else has?
I know mine instantly.
I know mine instantly as well. This is a confession really for me, but I please hold yourselves down, guys. I've never seen The Godfather.
Okay. I only watched that a couple of years ago. Not gonna lie.
It feels really kind of weird that we review films and sometimes you don't see these kind of films, but I once told that to one of my friends and he slapped me.
We have the trilogy box set, the Coppola restoration, and the first one I saw on TV a few years ago, but I'd attempted Godfather 2, realised it was about 4 hours long and didn't have time enough to watch it, put it off for a few years, and then I went back and watched all three of them. So I can cross those off the list now as some of the big ones I needed to watch.
I've seen the first Godfather and most of the second, but it's going back a few years, so I can't really remember them. I'm trying to think. I think it would be one of them big, broad ones that everyone's seen. Like, I've never seen Citizen Kane. I don't really care. I know I should see it. But there's loads. I mean, I think the biggest shock I have seen in the past year, I'd never seen E.T. Until a few months ago. But I've seen it now, but it was just one of them where I think everyone's got these films where everyone's seen them, but you haven't. But Chris, one of Chris's favourite Braveheart moments, and
I'm still going to harp on that film. You need to watch Braveheart. It's fantastic.
I think there's so many I haven't seen. But I'd say the biggest one is probably Citizen Kane or Gone with the Wind, one of the ones from like...
Oh, dude.
What? There's just a few generations before I was born. Get around to them once I clear the ones, you know.
I'm sort of like that as well. Like a lot of the old-timey films I haven't seen. Gone with the Wind is one. Lawrence of Arabia, Ben-Hur, which we will probably have to jump on a review for the original Ben-Hur if people are up for that before the remake comes out.
I don't have a spare 5 hours in my day, Chris. I'm sorry.
It's a long movie with intermission. When a film's got an intermission, you know you're in trouble. But for me, probably the biggest one, and this always gets the reaction of, oh my god, you've never seen X, is Castaway with Tom Hanks.
Really?
I have never seen that film, and every person that tells me about it says it's fantastic.
Wilson!
Yeah, I know all the memes, I know all the references and stuff like that, but it's just a film I've never actually watched. There was a lot of Tom Hanks ones I hadn't seen at a period that were a lot of the iconic ones. So there was a time when I hadn't seen Saving Private Ryan, Forrest Gump.
You haven't seen Private Ryan?
No, I have now. I've seen those two in Forrest Gump.
Yeah,
but
just to make sure. Just to make sure.
Is the one that remains. So yeah.
I'll say yeah. Second one from her is, what's one of your favourite movie quotes?
Where do you start? Is this just favourite quote, or is this one that we use most in our daily lives?
That's what I'm thinking.
We can do both.
The greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing the world he did not exist.
Yeah.
I use that one quite a lot.
That's a good one.
I've got a TV quote I use more than anything, and it's from the god that is Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, knowledge is power. I say that a lot of work about a lot of people. I've got a lot of knowledge on people, as you can guess. I'm a genius. Film quotes, though. I don't know if I've got a favourite one as such. I have favourite moments and these kind of hilarious ones, but a general quote, I don't think I do. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to push it to Chris.
Okay. For me, it's got to be one from Star Wars in terms of one I quote the most. There's so many from Star Wars that I quote, but the main one is probably, "You'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy." I tend to say that a lot when I go out or go to town or anything like that.
Oh yeah, you live in Birmingham, don't you?
No, I don't live in Birmingham. But favourite quote, God Almighty, there's so many. Looking at my shelf, I'm gonna have to go to Lord of the Rings. I do like the "You bow to no one" from Lord of the Rings. That's more of a moment in the film. But a nice quote from Lord of the Rings is, "All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you." I think that's a really, really nice quote. So
as far as like long quotes, I cannot quote it off by heart. I really want to, but the speech by Roy Batty in Blade Runner at the end.
Tears in Rain.
Tears in Rain.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah. It's a great monologue. Monologue, I'd say that. I know this wasn't the question I'm adding in. I'd also say the Independence Day speech.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
I know it's pro-propaganda, but every time that speech comes on, you do get goosebumps, even in the awful new film trailer.
I'd say even the new trailer, that monologue's fantastic.
Hearing an IMAX for the trailer was pretty cool.
It looks entertaining. It looks fun. I'll be at that one. It looks fun.
I'll watch it, but I'm not American, so I'm not going to say it's the best thing since Independence Day 1. Sorry, American viewers. Is there any more quotes, or shall I move on?
I think we can move on. I think I've pretty much said all my ones.
Right, this is a question from Auburn. We've kind of answered it already, but there's a bit more detail. It's, which movies had the most impact on your lives growing up, and do you feel those movies influence or in some way used as a standard when you watch and review movies today?
Absolutely, for me. Absolutely. And that's probably why everyone says I hate everything.
I'd say Star Wars because, you know, guys, I hate to hate films. I think it's the acceptance growing up that I love the prequels, that they're not the best made films. There are a lot of good things about them, but I don't look at a film and analyse. I think I can compare to a lot of films. So say I'm reviewing a Spielberg film, then I'm just in my head I'm going to compare it to previous Spielberg films because that's the standards to me of reviewing that film. I think I tend to compare to what's relevant. So obviously comic book films, I don't tend to compare them to normal films. I keep them within themselves. Keep confined to Marvel v DC. But in terms of growing up with some, I've never really thought of it like that. I just try and enjoy the films I watch, but when it gets to reviews, it tends to compare to the relevant genre or director.
Tate, how about you?
Once again, like referring back to Iron Giant, it was a bittersweet ending to a film, and it got me on a run of films with bittersweet endings. And those films are usually the ones I connect with most. The films where you're happy for the characters, but you know there's been loss, and you know that it has been there is hardship in there, and you have a feeling that everything will be okay, but nothing will be the same. Those kind of films have stuck with me, especially if you look through the list of like the films which I love. So you've got 500 Days of Summer, He loses
Oh,
Summer. And yeah, that is a real bittersweet ending to a film. Gattaca, another bittersweet ending to a film. Whiplash, kind of bittersweet ending. And you look through all the films that I kind of watch and I like, and they all seem to be bittersweet endings, so I guess that stuck with me from there.
So this is, sorry, I'm forgetting the question now. It was films that have stuck with us or have some kind of impact on us, right?
We use it standard for when we
Compared
watch
to other films.
films.
Yeah. For me, I have really 3 trilogies of films that have always stand testament. They're like the temples. If I was going to have the Mount Rushmore of movies, these would be on that mountain. So I've got the Lord of the Rings trilogy. If people have watched the MMM episode with me when I had to hate on Return of the King, which is one of the most hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. I adore the Lord of the Rings films. They're so epic. I just love everything about them. So they've definitely had an impact on me. And New Zealand's actually one of the, just if I could go nowhere in my life apart from one place abroad, it would be New Zealand. It's had that kind of impact on me. I wish I could be in Middle Earth. Star Wars, absolutely have to mention that. Kind of talked about it earlier, so I won't harp on it, but just being in that real big merchandise push of Phantom Menace with the new film coming out, new characters, going back to the old ones, just everything. I can't picture my life without Star Wars in it. It was such a big part of it. And Indiana Jones, the Indiana Jones trilogy, some of the biggest adventure action movies I ever watched. And if we're speaking about action, this is a film that I always hold up as the best action movie, and I compare other action movies to it that I see, is Terminator 2. I think that Terminator 2 Judgment Day is the best action movie ever made, just in terms of its story, its characters, its themes, and its actual action and effects. I think that film was just the whole package, and I always hold other action movies up to that one. And really, in terms of that, you were talking about Iron Giant tape. For me, I grew up on 90s animated films and Disney. I own every single Disney film. I've watched near enough every animated film I can think of. And to me, those old 2D ones are sadly kind of a lost craft now. And I go and see animated movies, and ones that come out fantastic. Zootropolis was a lot of fun. Kung Fu Panda 3 is one of my favourite animated films of all time. But I do kind of always constantly keep comparing them to those 90s ones, like Iron Giant, like the Disney films. So I guess that's my very long-winded answer on films that have had an impact on me.
Good question.
That was from the heart. That was right from the heart. Yeah, carry on.
Chris has emotions.
I do. And I do like things. So people keep saying I hate stuff. Fuck you, okay? I like stuff.
Not with everyone.
Someone from my uni course said, oh yeah, Chris doesn't like anything that came out after his date of birth. Oh yeah.
True though.
Wait, hold on. Take a DVD copy of Brooklyn to them, and then say, ha! I've got one film that I like.
Right, we've got a few questions from Tim. Number 1, this is solid. What's the all-time best movie?
Oof.
Lord of the Rings.
Hold on. Whoa. Here's a funny thing about this question, because when we were voting between us on who was going to go first in the timestamp zeros, we said to Chris, Lord of the Rings is A, not a film, it's a trilogy, and B, is definitely not the best film of all time when we're considering everything together. So in the end, I think Chris got voted completely off that, and that's why he's going 4th in the timestamp zero.
July, August? When am I going?
Whenever you come in.
July, won't it? Yeah.
I will say the same one I said last time. The best. I mean, I always separate best and favourite. The best film I think I've ever seen, well, it is the best film I've ever seen, is Schindler's List, and it's an easy answer, and that is because it's one of the right answers. Don't need to go into details. Everyone knows what it's about. Which is one of the best films I've ever seen. Not a favourite, because I don't know how you can favourite something like that. But from a filmmaking point of view, flawless. And he made it at the same time as Jurassic Park, which is an achievement in itself. And I think they ended up winning, which is why I'm second.
I ended up winning by saying Godfather, and now you guys know I haven't seen The Godfather.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm going to go in with 12 Angry Men here, because that film is just... It really is a testament to filmmaking, and a lot of films are aspiring to be like that film ever since.
And especially it's like a stage play, isn't it? How it's just...
It is.
It could be a stage play. It's a really good film.
It could have been done very similar to kind of Birdman, all done in one shot. It really could have.
Mm.
So it really is a brilliant film.
I'm just gonna punctuate this by saying I see all three Lord of the Rings as one big movie, but if I had to pick one favourite, it would be Fellowship of the Ring.
Hold on. If you're saying Lord of the Rings is one big movie, you have to count all 6, just like Star Wars.
No, I fucking don't, because The Hobbit's Lord of the Rings.
The events of the Hobbit. He writes the book, and then as he finishes writing the book, the Lord of the Rings begins. As in the actual story begins. He writes the Hobbit on the day of his leaving due. So essentially.
Apparently so, but in the opening of Fellowship of the Ring, he's starting his book afresh with nothing.
And what happens is they cut a few hours to him finishing writing his book, which is The Hobbit. So
you have to count it as all one film, Chris. If you can do it like that. Does that change your answer, Chris?
If every film was 12 hours, then God Almighty, Star Wars have been even better.
Yeah.
The second one from Tim, best sci-fi movie. This is what I think the best one. It's one of my favourites. Obviously, I'd say my favourite Star Wars, but I think the best sci-fi film is Blade Runner. There's so many though.
Yeah.
That's a broad. I was going to say Star Wars. That's not really sci-fi, is it? That's fantasy.
Yeah, well, no, I'd say Star Wars is sci-fi. It's more.
Well, Star Wars is science fiction, isn't it?
Exactly. I kind of see this as like sci-fi, if you know what I mean.
I don't know. Science fiction to me is the more thought-provoking films, you know, about like a possible future and things like that. So
2001's an easy shout, but for me, Blade Runner. I love the film. I think it's great. The more you watch it, the more stuff you pick up. You appreciate it more. 2001: Space Odyssey. I've only seen it once, so I don't really know if it's fair for me to judge it. I enjoyed it.
More of an event film, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's hard because sci-fi is broad, but I just can see Blade Runner. If you sit someone down and say, what is a definitive sci-fi film to watch, I would give them Blade Runner.
Mm.
Definitive sci-fi film to watch, and I'm going to say my answer is Star Wars: A New Hope, just for the technical achievements of the time. I mean, my dad's always saying to me, "You do not realize how amazing it was walking into that cinema and then watching the Star Destroyer come out through the screen and stuff like that." He said the film just blew his mind and blew everyone's minds at the time. So I'm going to pitch with that.
I've always said if I had a time machine and could go back to one day, it would be the opening in 1977 of the original Star Wars. I'd have loved to have been there for that. For me, I guess I'm going to have to go Terminator 2: Judgment Day, although I'm guessing...
An action film, I guess.
But it is sci-fi with the whole future war stuff and the time travel and things like that. I know that Terminator started it, so I should probably go with that one. But I
prefer Terminator to Terminator 2, by the way.
I get that. I completely get that, and that's kind of like the Aliens argument. They're both. The second one is more action oriented, whereas the first one's more like a stalker horror film.
Alien over Aliens.
Aliens. I'll go Aliens. But Terminator 2 was the first one I ever saw. I loved it, and it is one of my favourite films of all time, so I guess I go with that one. But in terms of actually world building, I'm with George on this one. Blade Runner just is a film that gets better every time I watch it. The first time I watched it, I really didn't care for it. I found it very boring. I didn't care about anyone. But then I watched it again. I watched the final cut. That's the version I've got on DVD. I think that's the best version of the film. Loved it. And then it got a rescreening. I think it was last year. Could have been the year before. I think it was last year. The Odeon rescreened it, and seeing that film on the big screen was a moment I'll never forget. It was phenomenal. So Blade Runner would be up there as well. But that's more for the world. I love the world of Blade Runner, and that's one reason I'm looking forward to seeing the sequel. Hopefully it's done right, but I think visually that's one of the most flawless films you'll ever see.
Okay, we've just been given a question from the YouTube comment section. Wait a sec, just got to get their name up very quickly. From Screamer number 1. What do you think about Scream, the TV series from MTV? Have you seen Scream?
I have never seen this. Is this a TV series of the horror films?
I didn't even know there was a Scream TV series, so I guess I'm going to hit that up, because I quite like the Scream films. Even though I don't count them as horror, Chris, by the way, the Scream films. I don't.
Yeah, they're like comedy. Yeah, they are. I can give my thoughts on Scream. I've seen the first 3. I still haven't got around to watching the 4th one yet. No spoilers, please, because I don't want to know who the killer is. I remember liking Scream at the time, but I did watch Scary Movie first, so it took a lot of the horror factor off of it. But I remember liking the first one. I didn't like the second one, or I remember kind of enjoying the third one. But this has like been over 10 years since I watched them, and I did try and rewatch Scream, and I don't think it holds up as well as people say it does. I think it's quite bad now and cringy. Like, the whole meta thing was completely new when it first came out, but loads of films have done that since, and I don't think it holds up well. Characters talk like no person ever would, so that takes me out of it. So yeah, I didn't even know there was a TV series though. It might be cool.
I'd say we've got Tim's final question. It's going to be a fun one. Marvel versus DC. Mate, that's broad.
I'm going to sit on the fence on this one, but go for it, George.
I'll go first. I think I read the most comics here. I'm probably the saddest one with it. I prefer DC Comics to Marvel Comics. I prefer the Marvel Cinematic Universe to the DC Cinematic Universe. I prefer the Dark Knight trilogy to anything that the MCU's done. I prefer the DC games to Marvel games. Granted, Marvel haven't done anything yet. TV-wise, I prefer Netflix's Marvel stuff to anything else. However, I've got a soft spot for Flash and Arrow being above the awfulness of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So that's me kind of tying up all of Marvel v DC. I want DC to do well, I really do.
They're trying, bless them. They're trying.
Right, I'm going to give them a few more films because it's not easy to set up a world. I mean, if you look at the X-Men franchise, there's 2, maybe 3 poor ones. Let me check.
Bad ones?
Bad ones? Oh no, there's just 2 absolutely...
There's 2 bad ones and 1 average one for me.
There's 2 bad ones. I like most of them. But yeah, no, again, it's just... It's a hard question. It's so broad. Marvel v DC could be anything, but
for me personally, Marvel Comics. I'm going to sit on the fence in the films because even though I do love the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think it's going to good places. I love the Dark Knight trilogy and I love Watchmen.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to kind of choose between those. As far as TV shows,
though, I think Watchmen was like another sort of comic publisher that DC sort of kind of owns. I think
it's like Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass is technically a Marvel property.
Yeah. Cool. I always think of Kick-Ass as Marvel because it's underneath Marv, isn't it?
Well, exactly. Mark Miller's company, Kingsman, technically as well.
Yeah.
Actually, that might be in the Miller world. But it's a broad question. They've each got their strengths. They've each got their weaknesses.
TV shows, I go DC because Flash and Arrow. I don't watch Daredevil. I tried watching it, just couldn't get into it. I did like a couple of the episodes I did watch, but it never really had that connection to pull me back. And the Flash is just brilliant at the moment, and so is Arrow. So I'm going to stick with those.
For me, I'm pretty much in exactly the same boat as George. Everything you said. I think that the Marvel films are incredibly entertaining. They've got a plan. They know what they're doing. True, you get some stinkers along the way, like Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Thor 2. It's always the 2s, apart from Winter Soldier. So those I really didn't care for. But I think overall, you go to them, you know what you're getting in for, and they're fun. I think DC Comics have a lot more thought-provoking themes and are usually better written. But in terms of their films, when you think about it, the only films that, for me, I think they've had successes with are the original Superman and Superman 2 with Christopher Reeve, the first 2 Tim Burton Batman films, and the first 2 Nolan Batman films. Everything else has been dreadful, in my opinion, from DC. You all know my thoughts on Man of Steel. You still all know my thoughts on Batman v Superman. For me, what's it called? Suicide Squad's going to be make or break for me. I'll still see all the other ones afterwards because I'm a comic book guy, but I don't know. So, but for me, in terms of the TV stuff, Daredevil is without a doubt probably my favourite TV series in recent memory I've watched. Not the most emotional. That'd probably be like Lost or something like that, but the things that show has done are incredible, and I can't wait to see where they take that with all the other ones. So TV is probably Marvel. Films is Marvel too, but I enjoy the themes more, and Batman is still my favourite character in anything. So
Yeah.
yes, that's
It's such a broad question, though, isn't it?
it is, yeah.
But no, it's a good question to have. I think most film people tend to, maybe out doing Star Trek, be Star Wars, but we all know the answer on that one. Right, and the last question we've been sent is from our very own Tom Woods. # Bring Back Reflection. What is the one film you can What's the one film you can keep going back to and still find new things to like about it? There's loads I could think about. I'm going to actually go off of Inception. Each time I watch that, I get mesmerised by how the hell he did it, how he came up with it. When the more you read about the behind-the-scenes stuff, the fact that he built artificial rain machines to use in downtown LA for the chase is ridiculously incredible. But for me, it's Inception. There's just so much more to appreciate after each view.
Hey.
For me, it's a couple of films. First of all, Prestige. Like, when we were watching back through that as part of the first Timestamp Zero, I was discovering new things whilst watching that. I was like, hold on. Okay, I see the link now. Got it. Because you're looking out for things, especially films with big twists. You're always looking for stuff throughout the entire thing. The Usual Suspects does that really well as well. Memento is another good one. Inception, amazing. But yeah, I mean, those films, and then finally, the one which I go back and I discover new things every single time is Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Always when watching that, I always see new things, maybe it's like subtle references to other things, and if you take into the account the, what's it called, Tarantino Cinematic Universe, and have a look at that as well, you see new things every single time when you're watching that film.
Definitely one of his best films. I think I prefer Reservoir Dogs overall, but Pulp Fiction's fantastic. For me, I was just looking at my shelf, so I wasn't going to be boring, but I've got to agree with George. Inception. I watched that last weekend. I hadn't watched it in years. My friend came over, and we were thinking about a film to watch. We were talking about Leonardo DiCaprio films, and I said Inception is one of his best. He was like, "Oh, I've never seen that movie. Do you want to watch it?" I was like, "Hell yeah, I do." And even still, I was picking new things out, and you get to about either a quarter of the way through that movie or halfway through it, and you do just kind of sit back in your seat and go, how the hell did any human being come up with this? It's so well written. Some people may think it's overwritten. I don't think it is. The way that, and you try and pick faults in it. You sit there and you try. Oh, I wanted to get that when it came out, just for the spinning top in there. It looks so cool.
Do we want to talk about quickly the spinning top? What are your thoughts? Does it fall? Does it not?
He's not dreaming. He's in reality.
Yeah.
Yep. And do you know why?
Because he's seen it wobble, and I've tested it with my own one many times. The second it starts to wobble means it's going to stop. So it's science.
No, I am going.
Oh, go on. Sorry, Dave.
I'm going to say no. It is reality because his totem isn't the spinning top.
It's the wedding ring.
It's the wedding ring.
Yeah. And whoever pointed that theory out to me deserves just a knighthood. That I didn't pick that up within probably my first 10 viewings of that
His
film.
wife's totem is the spinning top. Therefore, when he's in the dreams, his wedding ring is on, or is it off?
It's on, I believe, when he's in a dream.
And when he's outside of the dream, it's off. And in the final scenes, I think his wedding ring's on. Sorry, when he's in reality. And when the final scene comes around, he's wearing a wedding ring, so you know he's in reality.
And that's why when we were doing Timestamp Zero and watching Prestige, I was looking for that little notch in.
Yeah.
I was going to say Christopher Bale then. Christian Bale's eyebrow, but that didn't really amount to much, did it? Is that it for questions? Have we kind of gone through everyone's? Or?
I think that's it. I'm just having a look quickly at the YouTube comments, and yep, we've answered all of them.
We've answered all. Okay, then I guess we can wrap up, if you like. I mean, we've been going for quite a while, haven't we? I don't exactly know how long.
I think we've been going for about an hour.
Yeah, an hour just over. we'll cut it off then after that. But I think that's been a pretty good Q&A session all around. Covered a lot of areas. Once again, thank you to everyone that subscribed and followed the channel in this year, and hopefully this is to the next year as well. We're constantly growing the channel, coming up with new shows, constantly thinking of new things we can do, and we're just going to keep on doing it. So be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Bringing you a lot more reviews, reactions, new shows, commentaries, everything like that. And the next review we will be doing, I think, is Angry Birds. I think, begrudgingly. I know that that's not.
I'm not smiling.
I'm not smiling either. I'm angry. I'm as angry as that bird in that Angry Birds trailer. But yeah, join the channel, bring you loads more stuff. So yeah, we'll round off. I was Chris. You were Tate. You were George. That'll do it. So thank you to everyone that joined, sent in the questions, and we'll keep you posted with what's coming up next. So until next time, we'll see you then.